You can name your pattern in 15 seconds. You know exactly what you do. You know when it happens. You know why it happens. You probably even figured out who it goes back to. And it still happens. If you've been wondering why understanding your problem hasn't been enough to change it, you're not alone. And you're not broken. You've just been working on the wrong layer of the problem. In the next 9 minutes, I'm going to explain exactly why understanding doesn't produce change, where the pattern actually lives, and what you have to do instead. I work with people for over 2 decades who could explain their problems to me better than I could explain them back. Therapists, coaches, people who've read every book, people who've done plant medicine, breathwork, 10 days, silent retreats, every modality on the menu. And they were still doing the same thing, still feeling the same way, still calling me asking the same question. What they were missing wasn't more understanding. It was a completely different approach. Here's what I want you to sit with before we go any deeper. Knowing isn't changing. They live in 2 different rooms in you. And you've been knocking on the wrong door for years, not because you're slow, but because no one's ever shown you the right door exists. So let me show it to you. Here's the first thing to get clear. Your understanding lives in your head. That's where you analyze. That's where you reflect. That's where you read books, listen to podcasts, take notes, journal, talk to your therapist, run scenarios, draw conclusions, and store every insight you ever had about yourself. All of that is real work. None of it is wasted. But it lives in one place, your thinking mind. And the pattern you're trying to change, it doesn't live there. The pattern lives in your nervous system, in your body, in the automatic responses you have before your conscious mind even has time to weigh in. Let me give you a specific example. You walk into a room, you meet someone new. They remind you of someone, your father, your ex, an old boss, it doesn't matter who. Within 3 seconds, before you had a single conscious thought about it, your body has already organized itself. Your shoulders tighten, your breathing changes. You start performing, being agreeable, being defensive, being charming, being whatever you learned to be in that kind of dynamic decades ago. By the time your conscious mind catches up, you're already 3 moves into a script you didn't write. That script isn't in your head. That script is in your body. You can know about that script. You can talk about it for years in therapy. You can journal about it every morning. But knowing about it doesn't change it, because it doesn't live where the knowing lives. So if knowing about the pattern doesn't change it, and if the pattern lives in a different room than your understanding, what actually changes it? Here's where most people get stuck. They assume that if they could just understand the pattern deeply enough, get to the root, name the wound, see the connection, the pattern would dissolve. That's not how it works though. I watched thousands of people achieve genuine, profound understanding of their own patterns. They could draw you a chart. They could write the book. They knew where it came from, when it got installed, what purpose it once served. And the pattern was still running. Because here's the thing about understanding. It changes what you know. It rarely changes what you do. You can know that you shouldn't text your ex. You can understand exactly why you do it, exactly what need you're trying to meet, exactly what part of you is in pain. And you still text them at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. The understanding doesn't reach the place where the pattern lives. It can't, because the place where the pattern lives doesn't speak the same language. It doesn't process insight. It doesn't read books. It doesn't take notes. It responds to other things. We'll get to those. But first, you have to make peace with this. You haven't failed at change. You've been delivering the right material to the wrong address. So where does the pattern actually live, and how do you reach it? Patterns live in the nervous system. They live in the body. They live in the automatic responses your system was trained to produce during the years you didn't have a choice about what was being installed. Most of those years were before you were 7. That's a critical thing to understand. The patterns running your adult life, the ones you've been trying to think your way out of, were installed in a body that didn't yet have language. They were installed before you knew what they were, which means they're not stored as ideas. They're stored as conditioning, as reflexes, as felt sense. It's like trying to update a software program by reading the manual harder. The manual is great. It tells you what the program does. It might even tell you why the program runs the way it runs. But the manual is not the program. To change the program, you have to interact with the program itself. So how do you do that? How do you actually reach that layer? This is the part that almost every teacher gets half right and then stops. Yes, you go to where the pattern lives. Yes, the body is the right room. Yes, the nervous system is where the work has to happen. But here's what nobody tells you on the way in. Sitting with it is not enough. Feeling it is not enough. Naming the sensation, locating the tension, breathing into it, watching it without judgment. None of that is the thing that actually changes anything. I work with people who spent a decade in somatic therapy, people who can name every sensation in every part of their body, people who can track their breath, their tension, their charge with surgical precision. And the pattern was still running because the body is the right room, but awareness is not the intervention. What actually rewrites the program at that layer is something else entirely. Not insight, not feeling, not even acceptance. It's a specific mechanism, one that interrupts the old script while it's firing and lays a new one in its place. Fast, cleanly, in the exact moment the pattern is running, not later, not in reflection, not the next morning in your journal. That mechanism is what I have spent 20 years developing, refining and using in private rooms with high performers on stage and on live calls. It's what people walk out of 3 hours with me having experienced and then spend years chasing language for. I'm not going to try to give you the whole thing in a YouTube video like this. That wouldn't be honest and it wouldn't work. What works has to happen live in the body while the old script is active. You cannot read your way into it any more than you could read your way out of the pattern in the first place. What I can tell you is this: it exists, it's real, and it's faster than you have been led to believe change can be. And once you have felt it work on you, even once, the question of how do I change stops being something you ask. It becomes something you remember the answer to. Here's why this matters more than almost anything else you will hear this year. If you keep working at the level of understanding, keep reading, keep journaling, keep talking it out, keep collecting insight about yourself, you will keep being someone who understands their patterns and still has them. This is not nothing. Knowing your own makeup has value, but if your goal was to actually be different, to live differently, not just understand why you don't, then you have to make peace with the fact that you've been working on the wrong floor of the building. You do not need more material delivered to the same address. You need to walk into a different one entirely. And the work that happens in that other address does not look like what you've been trained to expect. It doesn't install new beliefs. It doesn't give you affirmations to repeat. It does not ask you to be more disciplined or more positive or more vigilant. It does the opposite. Something gets put down. Something stops running. The script that has been firing every time someone disagrees with you, or every time you walk into a room of strangers, or every time your partner uses that particular tone, that script just stops being the thing your nervous system reaches for. That is what people mean when they describe it well, by healing, by release, by integration. It's not more information, it's a different kind of work entirely, happening in a different part of you. So, to put it all in one place, understanding and changing live in two different rooms of you. Understanding lives in your mind. That is where your insights, your analysis, your therapy sessions, your books, your podcast, and your journals all go. The pattern lives in the body. This is where the automatic responses were installed. In years you don't even remember. Before you had a choice about what was being put in. You don't think your way out of patterns. You do not feel your way out of them either. You go in with the right mechanism and at the right layer in the moment the pattern is firing. And then the pattern stops firing the way it used to. If you do not, if you keep delivering insight to a system that does not process insight, you'll spend the next 10 years understanding yourself perfectly and not changing one thing. I've watched it happen more times than I can count. You don't have to be one of them. All right, that's it for today. If something in this hit, do me a favor, hit subscribe so that the next one finds you. And if you've been carrying something heavy, something you don't know how to put down, there's a video popping up right now that shows you how. Watch it next.